Welcome to Whatsoever, More or Less. My name is Jason, and I am a guy who has studied the kind of stuff that I'm actually going to be sharing with you today a lot for years. 2020 kind of set me off into go on a Constitution studying mode. I printed out a full copy of the Constitution that I managed to get onto 8 pages and put it on my wall along with all of our founding documents. So it was part of our living room decorations. But prior to that, I already had a collection of things from Ezra Taft Benson, and I would occasionally go through an Ezra Taft Benson phase, or Dallin H. Oaks too, same thing. I saw them as important men. And I'm going to talk about dates real quick here before getting into what I wanted to share prophetic talks-wise. First off, let's go ahead and analyze Ezra Taft Benson. He, when he was a kid, had a dream that one day he would go into the vault of the St. George Temple and see the records of the founding fathers who appeared to Wilford Woodruff and said, "Hey, why haven't you gotten our work done?" That was just a dream when he had learned about their story. And then he becomes an apostle, is sent overseas after World War II to help the needy over there, and he sees a lot about the disasters done by corrupt governments. And then he serves in President Eisenhower's cabinet as the Secretary of Agriculture for 8 years. Then when President Kimball became the prophet, he sent Ezra Taft Benson to the St. George Temple to go and verify the records of the founding fathers and learn all he could about them. Then with the bicentennial of the Constitution, 86 and 87, so bicentennial of the Annapolis Convention and the bicentennial of the Philadelphia Convention, and on through the bicentennial of all the important years, he was our prophet. And so you can call that a coincidence. Hey, the Lord landed it just right. Had this well-prepared man to think about the Constitution be the prophet of the bicentennial of the Constitution. Now we have one of the others who has spoken extensively on the Constitution, and he is the prophet of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. That's Dallin H. Oaks right now. George Washington. President Benson has pointed out that his votes were counted and officially he was declared officially the winner in Congress on April 6th of, 1789. So you can call all this stuff coincidences all you want, but at some point there's too many coincidences. So moving on now, I want to read... There are 3 versions of this talk. So this is the Constitution, a Heavenly Banner here, given in 1986. So the bicentennial of the Annapolis Convention, more or less. And it's a longer talk. It's the BYU version of the talk called The Constitution, a Heavenly Banner. And then even longer than this talk, he had a book published called The Constitution, a Heavenly Banner that has even more information on it. And then a year later, 1987, the Bicentennial General Conference, he gave this talk called Our Divine Constitution, which is a slightly more condensed version and had some updated text to his exhortations that he gave in 86. So I'm going to be reading from right here, where it says first and foremost. Okay. So he says, leading into it, how can we best befriend the Constitution in this critical hour and secure the blessings of liberty and ensure the protection and guidance of our Father in heaven? First and foremost, we must be righteous. John Adams said our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. If the Constitution is to have continuance, this American nation, and especially the Latter-day Saints, must be virtuous. The Book of Mormon warns us relative to our living in this free land. Wherefore this land is consecrated unto him whom he shall bring. And if it so be that they shall serve him according to the commandments which he hath given, it shall be a land of liberty unto them. Wherefore they shall never be brought down into captivity. If so, it shall be because of iniquity. For if iniquity shall abound, cursed shall be the land for their sakes. But unto the righteous it shall be blessed forever. And now warned Moroni, we can behold the decrees of God concerning this land, that it is a promised land, and whatsoever nation shall possess it, it shall serve God, or they shall be swept off when the fullness of wrath shall come upon them, and the fullness of his wrath come upon them when they are ripened in iniquity. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Two great American civilizations, the Jaredites and the Nephites, were swept off this land because they did not serve the God of the land, who is Jesus Christ. What will become of our second civilization? Second, we must learn the principles of the Constitution and the tradition of the Founding Fathers. Have we read the Federalist Papers? Are we reading the Constitution and pondering it? Are we aware of its principles? Are we abiding by these principles and teaching them to others? Could we defend the Constitution? Can we recognize when a law is constitutionally unsound? Do we know what the prophets have said about the constitutions and the threats to it? As Jefferson said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. Third, we must become involved in civic affairs to see that we are properly represented. The Lord said that he holds men accountable for their acts in relation to governments, both in making laws and administering them. We must follow this counsel from the Lord. Honest men and wise men should be sought for diligently, and good men and wise men ye should observe to uphold. Otherwise, whatsoever is more or less than this cometh of evil. Note the qualities the Lord demands of those who are to represent us. They must be good, wise, and honest. Fourth, we must make our influence felt by our vote, our letters, our teaching, and our advice. We must become accurately informed and let others know how we feel. The prophet Joseph Smith said, "It is our duty to concentrate all our influence to make popular that which is sound and good, and unpopular that which is unsound. 'Tis right politically for a man who has influence to use it. From henceforth I will maintain all the influence I can get. I have faith that the Constitution will be saved as prophesied by Joseph Smith. It will be saved by righteous citizens of this nation who love and cherish freedom. It will be saved by enlightened members of this church, among others, men and women who understand and abide by the principles of the Constitution." Now, recently, we had President Oaks dedicate the Burley, Idaho Temple, and he prayed for those who are striving to save the Constitution and the rule of law. And there is no comma between those two. The rule of law is the rule of the Constitution, not the rule of the opinions of government office holders. I would recommend reviewing President Oaks' talk, Defending Our Divinely Inspired Constitution. So we have a written Constitution, and that is what rules us. That is the measure. It's a ruler. It measures whether or not, whatsoever, more or less, right? There are boundaries of which God has said are acceptable for government. Okay. So now, coming back here, and I would point out, yes, we all know the White Horse Prophecy is questionable at best, but the Constitution hanging by a thread has been said by pretty much every prophet out there. Maybe 2 or 3 haven't said it. So for anybody to claim that's not a valid prophecy is, it's just, there's too much evidence to the contrary. So I've seen people kind of talk about it like it's not that important, but I'm going to point this out real quick here. If people who focus on only, being righteous, moral, and religious, right? Congratulations, you got step 1 done. And if you're staying at step 1, that's fine, I guess. You receive inspiration for you. Okay, but that's step 1. That's what it is. It is step 1. Okay. Step 2. We must learn. Here, let me see if I can make this more focused for everybody. We must learn the principles of the Constitution and the tradition of the Founding Fathers. Have we read the Federalist Papers? Are we reading the Constitution and pondering it? Are we aware of its principles? Are we abiding these principles and teaching them to others? This is why I made this channel. Could we defend the Constitution? Can we recognize when a law is constitutionally unsound? Do you know what the prophets have said about the Constitution? I am trying my best, by the way, to share whatever I can on all these aspects. Okay. And then, so that's really the second step. If you're stuck on just being righteous, that is great. That is really great. I'm just saying you're still on step one. Third, we must become involved in civic affairs and to see that we are properly represented. Okay. Let's talk about honest, wise, and good men. The first act that was done by Congress once George Washington was sworn in was to create the oath of office, something else that President Benson has emphasized as such an important thing. And what's the big deal about the oath of office? The oath of office makes each man an agent unto the Constitution, each representative of government. They are to answer to that. If you would have talked to James Madison or Thomas Jefferson or any of the tradition of the founders, as we've been told, they would have said, we don't answer to the opinions of the Supreme Court. We don't answer to anybody else's opinion. Even the lower courts don't answer to the higher courts. When it comes to how to interpret the Constitution, things may be appealed to the higher courts based on what the Constitution allows, but the lower courts themselves do not answer to the higher courts. They are to look at the law, look at the Constitution, look at the equitable principles of the case and deal with it. Fourth, we must make our influence felt. Okay. And then that's an obvious one. Let others know how we feel. Again, this right here is a huge portion of why I do this. And I'm going to read a variation of this because he said it slightly differently in this talk. So coming back to the second principle. So first principle is still the same, righteous and moral. But let's look at that second principle here. So we must learn the principles of the Constitution and abide by its precepts. Have we read the Constitution and pondered it? Are we aware of its principles? Could we defend it? Can we recognize when a law is constitutionally unsound? The church will not tell us how to do this, but we are admonished to do it. I quote Abraham Lincoln, let the Constitution be taught in schools and seminaries and colleges. Let it be written in primers, spelling books, and almanacs. Let it be preached from the pulpit, proclaimed in legislative halls, and enforced in courts of justice, and in short, let it become the political religion of the nation. Now, we've recently seen quotes that I've shared where Harold B. Lee said the Constitution is the law to go forth from Zion, and where, who else? Wilford Woodruff said that the Constitution is to endure until the second coming. In other words, don't stop trying to live and defend the Constitution until the Savior is already here and has given us the new law to replace it, which President Nelson has recently emphasized. It will happen one day, but it hasn't happened yet. And in the meantime, this is what we as imperfect mortals are called to defend in our human interactions regarding government. So again, church won't tell us how to do it, but they expect us to be able to teach the Constitution and defend it, to let others know how we feel. And so this is a huge part of why I started this channel. Again, if you're stuck on the being righteous, moral, I guess the whole classic, making sure you have your temple recommend, you're doing your ministering, whatever it is, your callings, which is all incredibly commendable. You're still on step one according to this list anyhow. And unless you've moved on. So, and really, if you want to receive some incredible inspiration, study the principles of the Constitution. The principles of individual agency are just amazing in that document. It is incredibly, it is no coincidence that this nation was, the church was restored in this nation. Not even kind of. And so again, President Benson, it's not a coincidence that he was the prophet when he was, nor that President Oaks, who was also one of those who was assigned to give a talk at BYU in '87 regarding government, is now our prophet of the 250th anniversary year of the Declaration of Independence, and praying for those of us trying to defend the Constitution. This is really defending the kind of relationship God wants us to have with each other. That's really all it is. And government is supposed to have a limited role, President Benson says, in all of this. And family is supposed to be the fundamental unit of society. Laws are valid whatsoever, more or less, comes of evil. So to take away from the Constitution that which it calls for would not be correct, but to add more to it than it allows, or even beyond, to violate the prohibitions would be more than the Constitution allows. And um, so anyhow, this is just wanted to share which prophet originally made me think, okay, I need to start sharing this because I do read the Constitution every day, and I've thought about it now. I'm going to start sharing my system. It's getting more detailed in how I analyze the Constitution. So that'll be coming up real soon. My 7 Ps, and then the hierarchy of supremacy contrasted with the last in time rule, and then the big picture and cross-referencing tool or full structure rule, so that we're not doing more or less, right? And then last but not least, the hypocrisy test, comparing it to the founding documents which came before it, in other words, the Declaration of Independence. So anyhow, thanks for listening, you guys. I'll leave something with you again tomorrow.